The amount of deal that you can expect to give up should be directly proportionate to what you can bring to the deal. So I don't know what you should expect to, or the amount that you get, I should say, not give up, but the amount that you get should be directly proportionate to what you actually bring, the value you bring to the deal. I don't know what you should expect to give up or get because I don't know what you're bringing. Um, so I can go through some scenarios though. Let's see. One scenario is if you have the deal and you don't have any money. If you have a deal and you don't have any money, then you uh, aren't in the best position to negotiate because assuming that it's a deal that requires significant capital, you're not gonna be able to do anything unless you find the money. And when I say you have a deal, let's qualify that a little bit more. If it is an off-market deal that you have it under contract. Now, if it's not under contract, then you have an agreed upon LOI. That's the next best. And then the uh, the one down below under have it agreed upon LOI would be you have a great relationship with an owner and he or she has the has given you an opportunity to buy the property or wants you to buy the property. There's more work involved on your partner that you're bringing in because they're going to have to negotiate things. And quite frankly, I would rather, if someone were to come to me or when someone comes to me with a deal, I'd rather them have the relationship with the owner and it be off market, meaning no brokers involved, versus them having it under contract. Because if it's under contract, then there are likely, I can almost guarantee there are terms in there that I wouldn't want in there. So ideally, the ideal scenario, because I always like to talk about the ideal scenario is that if you have, if you're bringing the deal, that's your part of the equation, then you have an inside track with a solid relationship with an owner, and you don't have the money. So if that's the case, then, well, I mean, the portion that you give up, well, first off, I wouldn't think about what are you giving up. I would think about what are you getting for your efforts. Because when I think about what am I giving up, I feel a little deflated. But when I think about what am I getting, then it's more empowering and more positive. And the reason why that is important is because you're going to be giving up a whole lot if you don't have anything but a relationship with a seller. And by the way, I recommend getting a NDA, non-disclosure agreement, signed by whoever you approach to potentially partner. That way, if anything shady goes on and they try to get it out from under you, which likely won't happen, but you want to protect yourself, then you're protected, in theory at least. So what you could receive for that transaction with your partner, who is, now let's talk about what they're bringing. They're bringing all of the money. And if you don't have the money, then you likely don't have the balance sheet. So they're bringing the balance sheet and to get approved for the loan. And if you don't have the balance sheet or the money, I'm guessing that you don't have the experience that is required either to be approved by the lender. So they're also bringing the experience. Well, if it is for the general partnership, what you would receive, I mean, you might receive the equivalent of 50 to 75, maybe $100,000. And that could, and depending on the size of the deal, if this is a 150 plus unit deal, maybe 75,000. If it's, I don't know, 250 units, 300 units, then maybe 100,000. If it's less than that, then it just, maybe 10,000 to 25 to 50,000. It just depends on the deal. And you might think, oh, that doesn't sound very appealing. Well, first off, what you could do is uh, look at the projected profits on the deal with the person who you're partnering with. And then instead of receiving that fee at closing, get the equivalent of that, or maybe 15% higher than what you would get at closing, because you're actually putting your equity back in the deal to retain ownership of it. And you get additional 15% on top of that for you not receiving it at closing, but rather putting it in. So you get a little bit of premium for putting your money in the deal rather than taking money out of the deal. And that helps build your track record, because ultimately it's all about building your track record and getting experience versus what will you give up for the deal. So the short answer is 25 to 100K. In that scenario, I suggest investing that back into the deal. If you need some money to, food, water, shelter thing, then don't put all the money in the deal. Put, a percentage of it, and then take some money out and feed your family and do whatever you need to do. But I do recommend staying in the deal. You might negotiate. And by the way, real estate deals, the beauty of them, you can make them however you want, right? You're only limited by creativity and what the market will bear. So if you can get a better deal than what I just said, 2 thumbs up, more power to you. I'm just telling you what I would likely compensate someone who came to me and said, hey, I've got this relationship with the seller, off market, no brokers involved, 150 units. To me, that's worth, 50, maybe 75K. And I would pay them at closing, ideally. But if they wanted to be in the deal, we could talk about that too. But it would be the equivalent of, or approximately the equivalent of, whatever that fee is. So that's one scenario.